Good evening, everyone, and welcome to Training Talk right here exclusively here on Personal Defense Network. I'm Grant Cunningham, and this is the show where we talk about you, about your life, and how to protect it. In the next hour, we're going to explore how you can prepare and equip yourself to face that worst case scenario and keep you and your family safe. Now, as you know, it's been kind of a crazy election season, so you're probably going to be happy to hear that we don't do politics or religion on this show. You're not going to hear any sort of, wacko conspiracy theories or loony fringe commentary. Just reliable information that you can put to use right now. It's the responsible and reasonable approach to self-defense and personal security. And hey, if you like reasonable and responsible, if you like reliable information like we're giving here, how about sharing the show with your friends and your neighbors, your family and your coworkers, all of those people in your life who could probably benefit from having this kind of great free personal safety information on the first and third Thursdays of every month. So share Training Talk with them if you would, please. I'd appreciate it, and I know they will too. So it's wow, the summer's ended, or at least the social part of the summer's ended, and kids are getting back in school, and everybody's getting back from vacation and kind of getting into the swing of fall and winter activities. And I can't think of a better time to pay some attention to your personal security training and practice and planning and all that kind of thing. This is a great time to do it and take advantage of not only the great resources here at Personal Defense Network, but there's still a lot of people out there who are holding classes this time of year. This is a great time to train. The crowds are less, and there's still a lot of great information being presented by a lot of great people. So now's the time to work on your personal security and self-defense planning. And I hope we can help you. We've got a great show tonight. I've got a couple of great guests. In just a few minutes, we're going to have Barret Kendrick from Bearco Training on. He's going to talk about appendix carry and drawing and reholstering the gun safely from Appendix. And then in the second half of the hour, Julie Leffler is going to be with us. And you remember Julie, and she's going to talk about how women can get started in this big world of self-defense information, because there's a lot of ways to enter it. And she's going to talk about, well, how you begin. And this is the first in what I hope will be kind of an ongoing series with Julie talking about women's self-defense issues. So stick around for that in the second half of the hour. First, though, I want to do a little bit of a rant, as I'm kind of famous for doing. And this last weekend, I got a chance to help out as an assistant instructor in a friend's class. And this is something I don't get to do very much anymore, because with my schedule, I just don't get to get on the range and help other people the way I really like to. But I had a chance to do that, so I hopped in and helped him out. And we had one student there who was telling me all about his carry gun and how he carried and all that kind of thing, and was talking about the ammunition that he carries in the gun. Now, I'm not going to use any brand names here because I don't want to get anybody mad, but he was talking about, he was carrying this the ammunition that's advertised as having this great sort of stopping power and great graphic pictures and all kinds of wildly outlandish claims about this ammunition. He was very proud about the fact that he was carrying this ammunition at like $3 a round or something like that. And normally, if it were my class, I probably would have told him to go in a corner and fix himself. But in this particular case, I didn't. I just listened to him and suggested that maybe he might want to research that a little more. And the reason that I bring this up is because there are still a lot of people out there selling what I call magic ammunition. And this is ammunition that's claimed to do all kinds of things. That stops bad guys instantly every time, and this kind of thing. And the reality is that there is no such thing as a magic bullet. All right? There just isn't. If you see these things being advertised, maybe your local gun store has them prominently displayed on their counter with a nice hefty price tag for 20 rounds. Remember that we know pretty well how to build a defensive bullet these days. Defensive ammunition is a relatively maturology. Now, every once in a while, somebody will tell me, yeah, but Grant, what if some great new technology comes along that really revolutionizes the world of defensive ammo? Well, if that comes along, trust me, you'll hear about it from me. I will talk about it. But everything that's labeled as new and exciting technology, we've tried before. Like I said, ammunition is a very mature technology, and mature technologies just usually don't get upended that often. Think about it. The violin, for instance, the form of the violin that we have today was established about 350 years ago, maybe 400 years ago, and it really hasn't changed substantially since then. Oh, we've messed around with the, on the edges and things, but nothing really revolutionary has happened in the world of violins. And we can look at any number of mature technologies like that that are probably about as good as they're going to get. And realistically, in defensive ammunition, like I said, we have a pretty good idea of what works, and we've been making it for a while. So rather than going out and buying some magic boutique ammunition, how about doing this? And this is the advice that I give for everybody. Go to a major ammunition manufacturer. Buy a modern hollow point bullet from their line in the middle of the weight range for the caliber that you're using, and then go practice. That's it. If you really want to increase your chances of surviving a lethal force application, a defensive shooting, train and practice. The ammunition, maybe a little bit on the margins back and forth, depending upon whose you choose, but there isn't anything magic. There are no magic bullets. Practice and train. That's it. So I hope, gosh, I hope that guy isn't listening. He'll probably be mad at me. Well, anyway, so much for magic bullets. Anyway, as I promised a little earlier, you may have been aware that there's been a lot of talk lately about appendix carry. And if you've seen it on social media, oh gosh, it's just amazing. I want to bang my head. It's like, bang, bang. I just want to bang my head sometimes about some of the crap that is going on about appendix carrying a defensive firearm. A lot of people will say things like, you'll shoot things off. And I don't think I have to get too graphic. This is a family show. But a lot of people will tell you it's unsafe, it can't be done safely, this and that, the other thing. Well, guess what? Thousands of people every day in this country carry their defensive handgun on the front side of their body in what we call the appendix carry position. And there's a right way to do it and a wrong way to do it. And tonight I have an ace instructor from Louisiana, my buddy Barret Kendrick at Bearco training down there. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to draw and reholster safely when you're carrying in the appendix position. Barret, are you there? Yeah, go ahead. Yeah,
I am here, Grant. I've got myself unmuted now with some technical difficulties. As you can see, I'm kind of wired to my laptop tonight, but we'll make the best of it and we'll get this stuff demonstrated. Thank you for having me on.
Hey, great. It's always a pleasure to see you and talk with you. And I guess the one thing I want to start with is you carry appendix all the time, right?
I made the switch, I would say, about 5 to 6 years ago. And I say I made the switch. There was a time that as a very young adult, if I was carrying a gun inside waistband, it always made sense for me, to have it on the front end of my body. But fast forward, more years and certainly training and developing in defensive shooting, I kind of moved the gun around a little bit. But ultimately, about 5 or 6 years ago, made the switch back to putting the gun more centerline carry. We call it appendix carry, but I'm basically, just about the 12 o'clock position, maybe right off center.
Okay, so this is something you do all the time. You're aware of the manufactured controversies that are out there, right? Do you feel at all unsafe carrying in the appendix position?
I don't. I kind of fall back to this. It's, I personally, I'm pretty positive. I'm 100%. I don't want to shoot myself anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's in the front of my body, on the side of my body, behind my body, or in my ankle. I would rather not shoot myself. So I believe that, I'm not carrying in such a position that's any more safe or less safe than anywhere else. We have to be careful. We have to, follow guidelines and be careful with what we're doing.
Well, great. And what I'm hoping tonight is that you can show us exactly how to do that, exactly what the guidelines are. So let's start with the simple part of drawing the gun from an appendix position. What are the things we need to be concerned about, and how do we do it?
You know, a lot of people are worried about getting the gun out of the holster. And I kind of put a video about this a while back on YouTube, as well as John Johnson with Ballistic Radio just did a very good video where he used marking cartridges to kind of demonstrate this. But basically, you know, when you have the gun in the front of your body, and you might end up losing my head for you to be able to see all this, but when you're working with the firearm in front of your body, obviously, you know, I trust the system in itself. I trust the gun in the holster. It's once it comes out of the holster where it's in my control. Well, I cannot get my finger on the inside of the trigger guard until ultimately the firearm leaves that holster. Now, because the gun's on the front of my body, you know, we have an understanding clearly that, you know, one of our natural reactions to being startled is we end up kind of with a crouch stance. We end up lowering that center of gravity. But even as these hips begin to close, I can't get the gun out from that position until I begin to open my hips back up. So what happens is, as I'm opening my hips up, and this is I've watched students, a lot of students interacting in training courses and doing this, and really the more aggressive that people get and the faster people get, the faster that muzzle actually ends up clearing the body as we're coming out of that holster. You know, whether you're driving out to extension or going to that ready position, it ultimately cannot, you cannot get your finger inside of that trigger guard until it leaves the holster. And because of the opening of the hips, by the time that you can get it in there, you're already clearing that path. You're already clearing that path of your body as that firearm is coming out. To where if there was a negligent discharge on the way out, ultimately what's happening the large majority of time is that angle ends up away from your body, with the gun being on the front of your body, appendix carry. You know, we kind of see the exact opposite of that of when someone is carrying strong side hip or even further behind the back, is that as they're coming out with that natural position with the body, the gun wants to more point inbound towards the body. So on the front of the body, it's pointing away, but on the side of the body or behind, we end up with the gun more canted in towards our body. So from that aspect, I kind of feel like it's making a safer path faster. So as we're coming out of that holster, that gun, that muzzle ends up clearing away. Hopefully you can see the angle of that. I can't really see the video from this
Oh, it's
angle,
perfect.
but good. So you can see the angle of that as that gun's coming out, and ultimately we end up clearing that body pretty quickly. So that's I think the concern with the muzzle coming out, or with the gun coming out of the holster, is more created than anything else. I think that the risk level ends up being a lot lower than what the internet makes it out to be. Believing that, you know, that the gun's going to go off as you're getting the gun out of the holster and you're going to end up shooting something that you don't want to shoot. I think that the risk ends up being a lot lower than that. You know, ultimately, we have, I'll come back down here for a second, but ultimately, you know, we have to get to the point where we're very confident with our abilities. It doesn't matter, you know, where you're putting the gun. You have to get to the point that you're able to, you know, trust keeping that finger outside the trigger guard and keeping that gun pointed in a generally safe direction whenever we can. You know, we can't let that kind of stuff down. People have been shooting themselves long before appendix carry became popular on the internet over the past couple of years. And we've had plenty of examples since then. You know, and it's most of the examples we hear about have nothing to do with appendix. They have to do with strong side hip. And that's so we have to get to the point that we're putting in the repetition, putting in the practice where we are very comfortable, you know, with our abilities and to handle that firearm safely, and that we aren't losing respect for it at all. You know, if we lose respect for it, we become complacent, then clearly it can jump out to bite us. The other biggest go ahead.
No, go ahead. I'm fine.
I was going to say the other largest concern clearly is going back into the holster. Yeah. And here, you know, we have so much control here. You know, one of the, you know, the largest mistakes that I see with people getting guns back in holsters is they try to race it. And there's really, you know, that shouldn't be a race. Not in personal defense environment. We're not going hands-on with anybody. You know, if you're about to get shot because a police officer is pointing a gun at you, then get rid of the gun for that matter. You know, let it go to the ground if you have to get rid of it that fast. But for the most part, it ends up being a much slower process. We learn to get very quick out of the holster, but going back in, I could sit here and literally talk for at least an hour on what we should be doing before getting the gun back into the holster. But when it's times to getting it back in the holster, that's time to slow it down. That's time to relax, especially inside of that training environment. And that's time to make sure that we're fingers outside of the way. If you can look at the holster, look at the holster. And then we've got some extra controls that have to be put in place for Appendix. So I'm going to go ahead and stand back up again. So as we saw that gun coming out of the holster here, pausing at that ready position, making sure the finger's outside the trigger guard, making sure our non-dominant hand or our weak hand is completely out of the way during the process. But when we're coming back into it, you might have been in a crouch stance, driven that gun out, whether in the training environment or real life environment. But as we're going back into it, we need to train in such a way that we fully open these hips back up. And in opening these hips back up, now we're starting to limit the path that muzzle is taking as we're going back into it. And it's not pointing down in our body, but we're keeping that muzzle pointing out and away from us as much as we can as we're going back into it. So that's where our body begins to move out of the way, to we're really slowing that process down by going back into it, keeping that muzzle out away from us, making sure that we're looking at it during that process, slowing that down, not making it a race to get the gun back into the holster, but really, paying a lot of attention to it, watching and feeling for anything like clothing that could be caught in the way, or, any of the straps on the holsters, or, clearly any other gear on your body.
One of the things that I've been known to carry Appendix occasionally. It's not something I do all the time. I'm one of those people with a relatively short torso. My hips are very, very close to where my hip, the legs hinge there, which makes it a little bit uncomfortable for short guys like me. But one of the things that I particularly like about it is the fact that I can look down and I can actually see the mouth of that holster. I can see that there's no clothing there. There's no nothing. I can guide the gun right in, and I know exactly where it's going. Interestingly enough, doing it in my preferred position, which is just behind the hip bone in that 3:30 or 4 o'clock position, I can't see it. I can't see what's going on. I can kind of feel, but I can't be as sure as I can be when I'm looking down at the holster and actually looking at that opening and watching things go in. So from my standpoint, it's actually a little more comfortable, a little more, I'm a little more confident with it when I can actually see the holster.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's, you've got some guys watching the show right now saying that, well, I've got a lot more belly than you do. It kind of gets in the way. I can't see it. Look, you also got another hand, get it out of the way. If you can get it out of the way and you can look at it, then, make sure that you're looking at it. And that's the same thing is that, I normally carry a Glock 19 in this position, just so I didn't have to clear the gun when I walked in here. I went ahead and set that off to the side and just grabbed the holster off the table, and the Valkyrie holster that kind of twists the gun in, but grabbed just a demo gun off the table so that we could see what was happening there. Blue being a little bit more contrasting to my body rather than the black sod handgun that I normally carry. But yeah, you got to slow it down. You have to put in the controls, but that's the same with any position. We've all seen guys, out on the range, in any other position that go to get the gun inside the body, go to get it, just like you said, they can't see it. They're trying to fish around for it. And they're kind of end up kind of pointing the muzzle more in towards their body, trying to find the opening of that holster. What would we do? Well, let's slow that person down, slow down. Let's just start by that. Let's slow down. Don't try to force it in there. And let's see if we can do it a little bit more safely. And that's the same thing with Appendix carry. I don't believe that we're at any more risk. I believe that we need to recognize that there's risk in any position, and that we have to make sure that we're putting the proper controls in place. And when we are, then we mitigate most of the risks the risks that people are talking about.
Awesome. And everybody, Barrett mentioned a great video that John Johnston at Ballistic Radio did, and I'll have a link to that. In fact, I'll have a link to an article that our executive director Rob Pincus did, where he gathered together a whole bunch of really great information and resources for appendix carry and how to do it safely. And I'll put that in the show notes after the show tonight, so you can have that right at hand. And you can go watch that video that Barrett talked about. So Barrett, thanks a lot for the great demonstration. I think it cleared up a lot of misconceptions and quite frankly showed everybody how to do it correctly. Tell us a little bit about your company and how people can contact you.
Certainly. I work as a staff instructor with ICE training, but also with my own company, Bearco Training, based out of Louisiana. We teach all over, whether it's defensive handgun, defensive rifle courses. We're also highly involved in reality-based training inside the scenario environment, where we get a chance to really evaluate students on their ability to be able to apply that skill. You can find me, of course, anywhere over social media, kind of Google Bearco Training or Barrett Kendrick, but you can also hit up my website, bearcotraining.com.
Cool. Great. Barrett, thanks again for being on tonight. I really appreciate you coming on and showing that. And we'll have you back on one of these days and talk some more training stuff and some more techniques for safe gun handling. Thank you very much.
I appreciate you having me on, Grant. Thank you.
You bet. All right, everybody. That was great. And I'm glad you guys got to see that. I'm glad that Barrett gave you kind of a side view so you could see what was going on with that and see how appendix carry, draw, and reholster is done safely. And I hope that dispels some myths out there. So I want to talk to you just for a moment about the Personal Defense Network newsletter. We have a newsletter that goes out to hundreds of thousands of people every week, over 400,000 people right now. And what do they know that you don't? Well, they know that the Personal Defense Network has a ton of really great information, free information, updates on what's going on at Personal Defense Network, updates about this show, so you know when the show is coming on, updates about Rob Pincus's live events. In fact, Rob's going to have one in about 2 weeks talking about active shooter response. What do you do if there's an active shooter, an active mass attack where you are, or maybe in your kid's school? What do you do with that? So Rob's going to be talking about that. Again, that's in about 2 weeks. So you'll get it. If you're signed up to the newsletter, you get notices about this stuff. You get the information ahead of time so that you know when to tune in. Now, all you have to do to sign up for the free Personal Defense Network newsletter is, first of all, if you're on any page on the Personal Defense Network site, there's a place to sign up. In fact, usually multiple places to sign up for the newsletter. And they usually say, keep in touch. And you just put in your email address and you'll start getting the information. Also, if you're looking at the show page on Personal Defense Network, you can look now, but don't do anything because I don't want you to miss what's coming up. But you can just click on the link that I provided there and sign up for the newsletter directly on the show page here. So you can do that as well. But the free Personal Defense Network newsletter, it's how I keep up with what's going on at Personal Defense Network, because there's so much material being constantly released here. I have trouble keeping up sometimes, and I rely on the Personal Defense Network newsletter to tell me about that. So sign up. It's free. Join the hundreds of thousands of other people that are getting this great information every week. So enough of the commercial for right now. I want to talk for just a moment before we have Julie on about an incident that happened here in my own state. In fact, it's a little ways away from where I live, but it's a place that my wife has actually gone to from time to time. And this is a membership warehouse retailer, and I'm not going to use the name, but it rhymes with Roscoe. And at this store here just recently, a woman had come out to her car with a whole pile of stuff that she had bought, as people do at these warehouse shopping places. And she opened up her car. It's a warm day here in Oregon. It was fairly warm out. So she opened up her car door, put her purse on the seat, started the car up and turned the air conditioning on so it would get cold, and went around to the back side of her SUV, opened the hatch, and started loading all of her stuff that she had bought. Well, as she was doing this, a car pulls up, and it was apparently a car that was a little out of place. This particular store is located in a relatively well-to-do area of town. It's right along a major freeway, right at the freeway exit, but it's a nice town where this is located. So they kind of stood out a little bit, but they were asking her directions, how to get back on the freeway. And so she gave them directions, being a nice sort, how to get back on the freeway, and they took off. She got back in her car and for some reason reached into her purse and discovered that her pocketbook, her wallet, I'm really not sure what women call these things. I think they call them pocketbooks. I hope that's right. But she found out her pocketbook was stolen with all of her cash, all her credit cards, her ID, and all that kind of thing. And as you can imagine, she panicked a little bit. Luckily, they hadn't taken the whole purse. They were apparently counting on her not noticing anything was gone for a while. They hadn't taken the purse, hadn't taken her cell phone that was in the purse. So she immediately called her husband, had him cancel all the credit cards, which, as it turned out, was a good idea because there was a large retailer across the parking lot from this warehouse store. Again, I'm not going to use any names, but their logo would suggest that they carry a lot of shooting supplies, including targets, if you know what I mean. And apparently these people gone in and loaded up their cart with a whole bunch of electronics and things and were trying to pay for them with these credit cards. The credit cards were instantly declined. Unfortunately, they didn't stick around long enough for the police to catch them, but at least they didn't get away with much. Unfortunately, they still have all her ID, and of course, there's a concern about identity theft at this point in time. I tell you this story because there's some lessons that we can learn about this. First of all, if you're a person who carries a purse or bag of some sort, maybe a messenger bag that you keep valuables in and your ID in, never leave it out of your sight. Putting it on the seat of your car and turning around and going to the back of your car is leaving it open for theft. And in this particular case, because she had the car running, the doors were unlocked, it was easy to get to. Now, if you have to, for instance, if you have to load things in your car and the purse is getting in the way, take it to the back of the car with you, set it inside the cargo area where you're loading so that you can keep an eye on it as you put your newfound belongings into the vehicle. Always remember that parking lots are the primary place for distraction crimes. Now, the people who came up and asked her for directions were obviously a distraction for the real thief. Questions like asking for directions, asking for the time, asking if you have a light, or asking if you have a cigarette. Any of these things are in a parking lot should be red flag signals for you. Your antenna should go up and you should automatically think that something's going on. These are called distraction ploys, and they work really well, especially for those of us who are polite. The more polite you are, the more the more likely you are to fall for a distraction ploy. When you're out in public, don't let yourself get distracted. In this particular case, if somebody comes up to you, starts encroaching on your space, you can tell them, hey, sorry, you don't have time for this right now. The car pulls up, you can stay next to your car. And if necessary, shout directions out, but don't leave your belongings unattended. Don't leave the security of your vehicle. Think about, why did this person pick me? Why did this person ask me for directions, or ask me if I have the time? Ask me if they can use my phone. That's certainly happened to some people. Ask yourself why they're asking you this and start looking around. Don't allow yourself to be distracted to the point that you can't see the other things going on around you. Luckily, this situation turned out much better than it could have. And hopefully she doesn't have to deal with any future identity theft, any of that kind of thing. But distraction ploys in parking lots, keep track of your belongings, keep track of your purse or your messenger bag or your briefcase or whatever it is that you're carrying. And oh, by the way, don't carry a gun in your purse and leave it on the front seat of your car while you're at the back of it. That would be exceptionally bad. One of the reasons I'm not a fan of off-body carry. So be aware of the situation that distraction plays in parking lots. Very common, happens all the time. And this was the reason this was interesting is because it happened in a parking lot that my wife goes to on occasion. So that's what's going on here locally. And that brings us to, here we go. As I look at my screen, I need to, one of the things as you notice, I've got a little different view of my office today. I'm experimenting with where to place cameras and screens and everything so I can see them. Anyway, as I told you at the top of the hour, we have the one, the only Julie Leffler with us tonight. And we're going to be talking about women's self-defense and how people can, how women can make sense of the whole thing. And we're going to start the conversation this week, and I hope that we can continue it over the coming months and maybe years, and talk regularly about this. And so, Julie, as you know, has been on the show before. You know her, you love her. Julie,
Yes.
there she is. Look at this. She has, look at this set. I cannot believe this. Wow. It looks like, doesn't it look like somebody made this set for a movie? Isn't that amazing? I love it.
You think?
Yeah, that's great.
Fresh paint?
Yeah, that looks great. Nice, nice little lamp in the corner there. I like that. Yeah.
Thanks.
So, how you been?
Well, pretty good. Pretty good. Ohio allergies are kicking in for everybody, and we're all at this point praying for the cooler weather so those go away. But things going well. We just got back from Los Angeles. We did a week's training of the martial arts out there with out in Los Angeles, and learned a lot of new things. Saw a lot of our instructor family from around the world, and brought some good takeaways back for my students here.
Cool. Well, then like all like the other contributors, like Barrett and all the other contributors here at Personal Defense Network, Julie is constantly working and keeping current and doing all those things that you have to do to bring their students and the readers here and the viewers here at Personal Defense Network all this wonderful information. So congratulations to you for keeping up on that.
Oh, thanks. Well, you know as well as I do, our mantra is, you are always a student. If you stop learning, you're serving no good purpose. You keep teaching the same thing over and over again, decade after decade, and you're not keeping up with what's relevant and what's current.
Well, in fact, one of the current things that I wanted you to have you on tonight to talk about is this big, I get a lot of emails, and one of the emails, I get a lot of emails from women who say things like, gosh, thank you for the show or for the books or you write or the articles or something, whatever. And saying, where do I go? I'm new to personal defense. I don't have anybody that I know that can lead, that can help me make sense of all this. Where do I go to get personal defense information and learn how to defend myself? Right. And I know that there are a lot of women out there who want to take responsibility for their own safety, who want to be confident that they can take care of themselves. But let's face it, you and I both know that this self-defense is this huge field. So let's start tonight. How can we break this huge topic down so that someone out there who's new to the topic can figure out where to start? Lead us through it.
Well, I'll start by saying I've been there. I get it. You start out thinking, all right, I know I have to take control of my own personal defense. I'm going to be my own first responder. I get it. I see all the bad stuff on the news. I know there's problems. I'm just going to, do what I can to help my little corner of the world and keep myself safe and maybe my friends or my family or whatever. So good. You made that decision. Then you go out to the website and the World Wide Web, the interwebs as we call them, and you see all kinds of stuff. You don't know what's good training. You don't know what's bad training. You try and rely on maybe some information that your friends are giving you. Maybe it's good. Maybe it's not so good. Maybe it's not even relevant to you. Maybe it's relevant to them, but not to you. You don't know yet. So I would say first and foremost, the biggest step is to do your research on what kinds of personal defense techniques, items, training is out there. And that's going to take a while. That's going to, if you do it right, If you go to, first of all, find out where the reputable websites are, or YouTube, or blogs, or any type of reading material, videos. We're on the best one right now. It's not called the Personal Gun Network. It's called the Personal Defense Network, and that's for a reason. You know, there's all kinds of stuff, and sometimes it's a little daunting. I mean, let's be real. You get on there, if you're new to the personal defense world, even a site that is so organized and so well done, such as the Personal Defense Network, it can still be a challenge for somebody who, you know, can get overwhelmed rather quickly with all the information. So, you know, take it in small chunks. Look at the outline. There's always an outline of a website, you know, especially if they have multiple things. And let's just take Personal Defense Network as an example. Look at the information they have on tasers, pepper sprays, blades, guns, unarmed training, how your mindset should be. You know, everybody forgets about that. There's all different categories that you need to do really good, well thought out research. And then once you do that, then you can get into, all right, what's going to work for me? What resonates with me? Because not everything is going to be for everybody, ever. You might be a type of person who says, look, I am not into guns. I don't care about guns. I just want to keep myself safe in any other way other than a firearm, because they kind of creep me out. I know a lot of people who say that. I also know a lot of people who disregard those people because they don't want to use a firearm. And shame on them, because it's not their decision. You want to learn how to keep yourself safe, do it in a manner that resonates with you. That's how you're going to stick with it. That's how you're going to continue to get the training that you need. And that's how you're going to remember what you're supposed to do when you need to, when it's really go time. I'm very passionate about that, as you can tell. I carry a firearm. I use blades. I use unarmed defense. So I do all of it. I don't carry a taser and I don't carry pepper spray, but it doesn't mean it's not right for somebody else. And that's a big deal. And I think, Grant, maybe you can even talk about what you've seen in the industry with the it's this or nothing attitude, and how that can, for a new person, kind of turn them off.
Oh, definitely.
Haven't you seen that?
Oh, definitely. You know, one of the things that, and you know, I've talked about this, and I've talked with this about talked about this with a lot of people. Gosh, I'm having trouble talking tonight. I don't know why. And yes, I have nothing but water in my tactical hippie. Yeah. I have nothing but water in there. But yeah, a lot of people. There's a lot of in the self-defense industry, and I know this goes somewhat for the martial arts world too, that
Sure.
if you're not carrying a gun, or you're not doing X martial art, whatever it is, then you're not serious about your safety. And that's just not true. There are a lot of other ways to protect yourself, a lot of other ways to stay safe. And like I always say, self-defense isn't just about shooting the bad guy. That's not all there is to it. And you're right. A lot of people get turned off by that insistence that that's the only way.
Well, and it seems like those comments, those people scream the loudest, and they're the ones who get the attention, and they're the ones who, you know, it's the calm, cool, collected ones like we are most of the time. I mean, I can get kind of wrapped around the axle about a couple things, but I mean, for the most part, we're pretty even keeled, pretty even tempered. We don't make the news very much because we're kind of boring. You know, we want to help everybody. We do get sniped at a little bit in the social media because we're trying to help the masses. We're trying to not force our opinions on other people. That's a philosophy that I have in the armed and the unarmed world. That's something that I started learning and training under since 1994. And what might be right for me is not going to be right for somebody else. So you better show them the options, you know?
You know, and I think that's true. If you know, find something that resonates with you, and that resonance may change over time. You may decide,
Oh yeah. Yeah.
but get in where it's comfortable. Get in where
Yep.
you feel that this addresses your needs, and start with that, and then expand
Absolutely.
the range of things that you do. I want to get back before we go on. I want to get back just a moment
Yeah.
on what you said about research. And
Yeah.
I think it's important. A lot of us, we're so used now to getting on the Google and doing the Google thing, and
Yeah.
deciding that we know everything that we know. But when you're talking about doing research, it's more than just 5 minutes of Googling, isn't it? You actually have to put in a little bit of work, right?
You do. And I have my favorites, and I'm always looking for new information, new people. But there are a core group of places that I go for really good information. I know it's been researched. I know the authors or the people in the videos are accurate, and I can take it to the bank. Now, does that mean it's right for me? No, probably not. But you got to read and you got to try and look. What I'm, for example, let's say I'm new and I want to do this research. So you're like, oh crap. Okay, so you grab grab your glass of wine, grab your cup of coffee, whatever it is, and you sit down at your computer and you go to Google and you're like, what do I type? Self-defense, right? Self-defense for women.
And
Personal
then,
guns, knives, and then you get what you see. What a lot of times you see is this barrage of bravado. And speaking from a woman's point of view, it's not necessary to come out with all this puffery. And I think the gun world especially is, sorry guys, sorry interwebs, particularly guilty of that. And I think they're coming around to the fact that there's a lot of more people like me who want to enter into that world and learn from all the people who've been there before. We have a lot of learning to do, and so we have to. I'm not gonna go to a tacked out website. I'm gonna go to Grant Cunningham, who looks like me, who talks like me. Other people who are on the personal defense network, you know.
I
Who
look like you. Okay,
whatever.
then.
Yeah. You're not wearing the camo every day. You're not putting the mirrored glasses on every day, and you're not standing there saying, if you don't shoot an AR-15 5 times a day, you're nothing, because that's out there. You have a laugh, but it's out there.
It's out there.
It is. And we just sit here and we roll our eyes until we see the back of our heads and we're like, this is crazy, and then we turn the computer off and then we stop our research.
Okay.
So that's kind of what I hear from the women who are out there, from the non-gun people who are out there, men and women. Just, we need to find the toned down, logical explanation websites, blogs, videos, and they're out there. Say some of your favorites if you want. I'll save some of mine if you don't mind.
Yeah, go right ahead. If there are sources out there for great information, go out and find them, and visit Julie's site. She's got a lot of them. Don't forget Julie's site as well. So I just wanted to, so let's kind of recap where we are. So first of all, do your research, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Do your research. Make sure you're getting the proper information on what's out there for you to use for personal defense.
So the second one is figure out what resonates with you, what seems like it will work, right?
Right.
Okay.
For right now, like you said, it could change, and
Right.
it probably will. The more comfortable you get with this personal defense topic, the more some people, most people, are going to be willing to go out and try different things and find out whether they do or they don't like it.
Okay. So, do your research, find out what resonates.
Yep.
Where do we go from there?
What? Oh, well, at that point, once you've narrowed it down, it's kind of like going through a funnel. You've got Google, right? Big old Google. And then you go, well, I like this much, or I like these two things. Once you find out what you have and what you like, then you need to start receiving the training. Go get the training that you need to use the things that you've picked for your own personal defense plan.
Okay.
And it needs to be reputable training from experts in those fields. And, everybody touts themselves as an expert, but you really need to do your research. Go back to research again. Do your research on the instructors, because first of all, credentials matter to a certain extent. You also need to make sure that instructor can actually instruct. It's important to make sure that they can, relay the information that they may have, bouncing around in their head. Because there's a lot of people out there with a lot of information.
Okay, cool. So it's a huge field, and that gives us kind of just at least gets us a crack in the armor so that we can get into it, so that we can find out what's going on, which I think is great. So thanks for that. What I want to ask you is if you want to hang around for a minute, because it's about time to do some viewer email, and I've got one that it's up your alley. Let's just put it that way.
Okay.
But before we do that, tell us a little bit about yourself and how people can get in touch with you and where that website of yours is.
Okay. My website is www.midohioimb.com, and that's IMB as in boy. I'm on Facebook, I'm on Twitter, I'm on Instagram. I have personal and business pages. I'm steeped here. I'm stationed here in Columbus, Ohio, but I'm also mobile. I've got classes lined up for Northern Ohio, Southern Ohio. I'm working on Tennessee, Michigan, and Indiana for next year. So, don't think that if you can't make it here, contact me, see what we can put together, and I'd be more than happy to come to you, because I know how hard it is to feel comfortable with an instructor. And if we connect and you can't make it here, maybe we can make something work.
And don't forget that she's a contributor here at Personal Defense Network too. She puts out some great stuff here at Personal Defense Network. So, well, thanks. I appreciate that. And so I'm going to take a look at this email that I got, and let me bring this up here. Where is it? There it is. Okay. I got this email, and this is from Fred. And Fred says, thank you, Grant. Talks about his background a little bit. And he says, one of my personal crusades is, by the way, here's one of his interesting safety tips. He talks about, don't wear your work ID badges in public outside of work, because they include your name, your photo, and your place of business. Kind of a dumb thing to do. Hey, good point. I hadn't thought about that. Anyway, he says that one of the things he communicates to people that he teaches is that regardless of the environment, they always need to wear shoes that they can move fast in. And this is kind of important. And I would say not just fast, but also over maybe rough or debris strewn ground. And again, self-defense isn't just about shooting the bad guys. Fires happen, car wrecks happen, all kinds of natural disasters happen. And so having shoes that you can move rapidly in is a defensive tactic. It's something to think about when you're thinking about your road, when you're planning. What would happen, for instance, if you had to run down the stairs in your office building and across broken glass to get out without proper shoes? You could sustain serious damage that could leave you behind and maybe put you in even greater danger than you were before. So I agree with that. I'm always sure to wear good, sensible shoes. Now, this is almost cliche, and I almost hate to do this to you, Julie, but he continues. He says, I get a lot of pushback from women who insist on wearing heels all the time. And one of the tactics that he's used to sort of drive the point home is that I ask them what their style preference will be if there's a bomb threat or an active shooter. And boy, that's that's kind of a relatively direct way to talk about this. And I know that there are a lot of women out there that are not going to be separated from their high heels for love nor money. And that's fine. So Julie, maybe you can give him some tips on how to get this point across maybe a little more effectively with the women that he's talking to.
Yeah, I would be happy to do that. Well, I can tell you that as you age, you don't want to wear the 5-inch spike heels anyway. So I guess it kind of depends upon a few things. What are people used to wearing? Age plays a big factor in that too. If you've got a 20-something, they're going to be a heck of a lot more comfortable in a taller heel than maybe somebody who's older. I mean, let's just face it. My feet are not the same feet that I had when I was 22. So that will play a factor. Also, too, as you remember how I said your personal defense types of things that you do are going to change. Your perspectives on these types of things, clothing, shoes, whether you carry in a purse or not, they're going to change too. I've come to the realization that, and ladies, maybe you can relate to this as I talk to it. You can still have a stylish heel, but it can also be something that you can run in if you have to run. What if you have to take care of your children? What if you have to move quickly out of a store? What if you have to move quickly in a workplace environment? There's a lot of different sporting event. There's a lot of different things where, you know, you might like to wear a boot. You might like to wear a wedge. You might like to wear a heel. And you can do that. You can get away with all of those things. And still, if you're thinking about personal defense, because some people just don't, but if you're on this show and if you're listening and you're thinking about it, think about whether you can get away with a 2-inch instead of a 4-inch and still look stylish. I'm 5'4", so like every inch counts when you put it on a shoe. But I've also changed my mind about wearing a higher heel, because you can, what if you roll your ankle? What if you break your ankle? You think you're going to be able to get away at that point? Probably not. And so being a little smarter in your decision making with your shoes, it kind of does become important. Now, I love fashion, and I'm not wearing the granny shoe, and you don't have to wear the granny shoe either. There's plenty of good styles out there that you can get in a 2-inch heel, 2.5-inch heel. And you know what? I can get away with a 3-inch heel. My balance is maybe different than somebody else's. You just have to be able, I mean, you might look funny running down the aisles of DSW, but why not check it out? Put a shoe on, see if you can run down the aisle. And, you know, if you can, game on, go get it. But yeah, I think it's a very important thing to think about as a big picture.
Okay.
You know, as part of that big picture.
Cool. Well, thank you. Fred, I hope that was helpful. Maybe give you some ideas of how you can advise your female students about footwear for emergencies. And there are more. I didn't know about these. What do I know about footwear? I've got a pair of boots. I've got a pair of boots, right? I've got a pair of tennis shoes. And I got a pair of dress shoes for those times when I wear a suit, which is like once a year.
That's probably like one more pair of shoe than most guys. You might be ahead of the curve.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, don't they normally go, I have a black pair and a brown pair? Right?
Well, you have the, I mean, you got to have work boots if you're working around the house.
Oh, right.
You know, you got to have tennis shoes.
I thought work boots were the old pair of brown shoes. You know, guys never throw anything away.
For some guys, that could be. For some guys, it could be the old pair of tennis shoes. Yeah. I've been known to do that from time to time.
Oh yeah. My dad's old pair of tennis shoes always had green on the front because that's what he mowed the grass in. The old pair of tennis shoes. They were green.
There you go.
Yeah.
All right. Well, it's about time to wrap things up here. And so we'll do that. We'll talk for just a minute about upcoming stuff. Oh, by the way, I wanted to talk. Oh, boy, I completely forgot to talk about this. Don't forget about premium membership here at Personal Defense Network. All the great stuff that we have on the public side of Personal Defense Network, where there's even more on the membership side of Personal Defense Network. There's full-length videos, video collections, video playlists, access to exclusive training videos, access to classes, all kinds of stuff that you can find on the membership side of Personal Defense Network. And we're here to make you a deal. If you sign up for premium membership here at Personal Defense Network, and when you check out, if you put in the code GRANT10, G-R-A-N-T, the number 1, the number 0, all one word, GRANT10, at checkout, you get your first year for only $10. And that is a steal. It's normally, I think, $34.95. That's like 70 some odd % off for your first year. It's a great deal. It gives you a chance to check out the membership side of Personal Defense Network and check out all the incredible information that's there in the full-length videos, exclusive videos, all that other stuff. So check it out. Grant10, that's the code to get your first year for only $10, and try it out. Skip the lattes for 2 days and get membership here at Personal Defense Network for only $10. Use that code GRANT10, G-R-A-N-T, the number 1, the number 0. $10 for your first year for premium membership at Personal Defense Network. Trust me, it's a great deal. Premium membership here is awesome. And so that just about wraps it up for this episode. We're going to be back on the first Thursday of October, which if memory serves, that is October 6th, something like that. I'm going to bring up the calendar here because, I didn't even bother looking. And so let's see, October 6th. Yes, it is the first Thursday of the month, October 6th next month. And we'll be back with another hour of great personal defense and preparedness information that you can put to use. Don't miss that. And as I said, don't miss Rob Pincus's live show here in about 2 weeks. And I believe it's exactly 2 weeks from tonight. And he's going to be talking about response to active shooter, active mass attacker scenarios. Everybody's a little worried about that, especially now that our kids are back to school. Check that out 2 weeks from tonight, right here at Personal Defense Network Live with Rob Pincus. Of course, don't forget to send me emails. Grant@grantcunningham.com, right there. Send me an email. I love to get emails like this one I got from Fred tonight. That was great. And I get a lot of great emails. I like getting them. I like getting your questions, and I try to answer them by email when I can, or here on the show if I can't. So do please send me email. Of course, don't forget about premium membership here at Personal Defense Network. Don't forget about the free Personal Defense Network weekly newsletter with all that great information in it. Sign up for that, all that other stuff. And I guess that about wraps it up. Julie, thank you so much for coming on the show again tonight. And we'll have you back on soon. Talk more about this huge topic. Okay?
Grant, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
It's been fun. All right, everybody. Good night. Stay safe and join us the first Thursday of next month, the 6th of October, for the next episode of Training Talk right here on Personal Defense Network. Good night.